Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite warlock, practicing necromancer. And as promised, this is part two of the American systems. In my last video, I had to cut it abrupt because my son's school called. He needed me to come pick him up. He wasn't feeling too good, so it turns out he's got pneumonia, at least the beginning stages. It's basically where it rests in the lower lungs, which causes asthma, basically. So, guess what? Medication's on top of that. So, fun for him. And anyways, I gave you some books and I discussed a lot of things about socialism, about strategy, and I named off several books. Okay, so I thought I would actually show you some of these books and kind of discuss why I recommend them. Okay, now, like I said in the last video, there's a lot of books that I do recommend, a total of 43 out of 45. And one of them I paid roughly about $62 for, plus shipping and handling came to like 70 some odd dollars. Another one was 150, and it was called The Egyptian. So I'm not going to be showing those The Egyptian here today, but the $60 one I am going to be showing too. So, and down in the description box, I actually wrote the title of the books and the authors that wrote them. So, one of the things that made me better as a magician, as a sorcerer, was these books here that were recommended. They didn't just open my eyes and teach me about discipline, focus, about self-motivation and how to achieve apotheosis. It was more the fact that each one brought a particular lesson that spoke to me personally. Okay? So I got no doubt that these things are going to do the same for you. Now, the first book is the Book of Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Now, the reason I like his book is because he teaches you about paying attention to both sides of the mirror. It is basically the mirror reflection of who you are. It's not just about what you represent, it's about how you observe the world around you. Say, for an example, if you're caught between, say, the right hand path, let's say Christianity, versus that of, say, Satanism, don't you think it would be prudent of you? Wouldn't it behoove you to get to understand both applications? There's an old saying, to get to know somebody, walk in their shoes. You don't know how much that is truth. Marcus Aurelius teaches you not only about discipline, but he teaches you observation, how to observe your surroundings. It would be like paying attention to what you do as a mage or a magi, a necromancer, a satanist, a witch, warlock, whatever you want to call yourself, on the left-hand path. But it would also be the same as a Christian, be it if you are a Baptist, a Catholic, let's say a Pentecostal, a Jehovah's Witness, or whatever. Either way, you want to be aware of where the other person is coming from, the other religionist. And the reason for that is because how do you defeat an enemy? How do you defeat an enemy that you do not know? You have to do it through observation. And it takes discipline to be able to study something like that. It takes discipline and focus, commitment to your practice to understand where all these religions come from and to trace your particular lineage, if you will, back to its original source to be able to have a firm foundation, a firm grasp on your tradition and how you can educate somebody else. And to do that, you want to remain neutral. And that was one of the big things that Marcus really spoke on was to be that neutral individual and but to be aware and observe every other party out there, where they're coming from, what they're teaching, what they're putting forth. And then no matter who ends up in charge or the dominant, if you will, then you have the arsenal of knowledge to combat it, to even stand with it or not. Either way, very, very good book. I thought the strategic applications of the Book of Meditation was unique in a Stoic perspective. Now, the next one is The One-Dimensional Man by Herbert Marcuse. This book really blew my mind. You know, we're all aware of what's going on in our societies, be it religious wars, be it the war of the sexes, be it government branches attacking each other, countries attacking each other, you know, the basic social standards of dogma. The perspective of The One-Dimensional Man is basically one of those books that teaches you the behaviors of the individuals, the structures, the norms, you know, the communist perspective, who they are, the technology-wise, and so forth from the cultures. You know, and this book really, really is one of the best ones out there that really teaches you about that. You know, I refer to myself as a half-breed, really, because on my mother's side, I'm European, you know, but on my dad's side, I'm native. So I'm like a half-breed, if you will. And I don't mind that terminology. I really don't. But when you think about cultures in general, where societies and norms, traditions, and values come from, I've got to give it up to Herbert for this because he really brought it to the forefront. And this is one of those books that came out, and I'm going to just open it up here real fast. Came out in 1964. Was introduced again in a second edition in 1991. So you're looking at a 30 to 40 year span. But when it originally came out, it was like 1898. And it was within the Library of Congress, the cataloging and publication data. I couldn't believe that when I read that. It was like, damn. Think about the old ways and how they spoke, how they saw things. It would be like you going from, say, England, going down into, say, Mexico. How about Brazil? Do you even know their cultures? Do you know their laws? How they see things? How they perceive things? And then you look at what they really introduce, from technology to status quo to the behaviors, what they perceive as societal, capitalist, and communist perspectives. You know, the uncritical conformist acceptance of existing structures, everything. I mean, this book is going to rock your mind in ways that you just don't see in modern books. Now, the third book is called The Sovereign Individual, Mastering the Transition to the Information Age. Now, I never really thought of this until roughly about a couple years ago, when I started slowly removing myself from social media platforms that I don't use. Things like Instagram. I barely get on Facebook these days to do any form of teaching. Then there's a couple other platforms like Twitter and one other that I just didn't use anymore. So I got rid of most of my accounts, and I don't really get online very much because I prefer books over technology. Now here's the kicker. After reading this book, I thought back about 8 years ago. About 8 years ago, I had this girl that I worked with. She asked to use my phone, and about 4 hours later, she asked me if I found my phone. And I'm like, was I supposed to look for it? It kind of blew her mind that I wasn't worried about my phone. And it's like, number one, I'm not glued to my phone. I prefer going out walking. I prefer the trails. I prefer going into the cemeteries. I prefer to be just out during at night, just walking the streets when it's quiet. I like to be indoors, reading, drinking, coffee, and so forth. And one of the things that, separates the past from modern society is knowledge. It's the amount of information. And when we look at it, the only reason we made such great strides for over 200 years is because Americans were informed, they were enlightened, they strived to be better, honorable, you know? It didn't matter if you were into the occult, it didn't matter if you were into Christianity, it didn't matter if you were a Democrat or a liberal or a Republican, you know? It didn't matter if you were, just a normal Joe working a 9 to 5 or you were homeless. It didn't matter. It was about information. So you'd seek to try to understand things. You'd go out of your way to become enlightened. The only difference between the early 1930s and today is everything is thrown at you. You have so much information no matter where you turn, the radio, the TV, going through, say, a flyer, or you're going down the road and you're seeing all those proverbs, what do you call it there? The advertisements. Even on Google, social media platforms, it's information overload. No wonder people don't learn or strive to become better. This book has a lot of different topics in it, speaks on a lot of topics, and like I said, this book here, The Sovereign Individual, and it's by James Dale Davison and Lord William Rees Mogg, is one of the best books I have ever read because I related to it so well. I connected to the author. And like I said, he saw things ahead of time that would be classified as prophesizing. Now you guys know me, I don't toss that word around a lot. I don't sit there and go, oh, it was prophesized to happen, right? No, I didn't. So this book here came out in 1989. Again, in 1997 was the copyright. And another one in 2020 came out, and so forth. But this book goes back to 1989. And it was one of those books that really, like I said, will blow your mind. And I guarantee it, you're going to be off technology. You're not going to believe everything you're told. You're not going to sit there and be glued to the TV 24 fucking 7. Now, one of the things that enlightened me was a book by Ivan Illich. And there's a couple books here by him. And I'll actually save that one for another time. Not for another time, but in a little bit here. So, reality transurfing, steps 1 through 4. These are books 1 through 4, which is why it was roughly about $62. It's by Vadim Zeland. Okay? Reality transurfing. This book here, even though I'm currently still reading it, I'm about halfway through. It is blowing my mind because it comes down to the way you perceive technology. You can't even get on social media like TikTok or Facebook and go underneath just the videos portion of it without coming across something about trading, day trading, trading with AI and different mind model type stuff. The latest technologies that are coming out. It comes down to your thoughts. It comes down to your perspective. And it really comes down to transurfing technology and managing reality. Very, very good book. I love this book so far. I highly recommend it. It's worth the amount of money that you spend on it, especially unless you have Amazon Prime or whatever the hell it's called, where you can get it in like 2 days. But, and for cheap, anything over $35 has free shipping and handling. So, but like I said, it's a very good book that challenges you to practical confirmation. It's not about, how should I say this? It's not about, just focusing on a single topic or a wide range of topics. It's about how you perceive it, how you accept it, how you confirm it, and how you apply it to your life. Like I said, I'm about halfway through this book. I highly, highly recommend it to you. It's enlightening. Another book is called Manufacturing Consent, the Political Economy of Mass Media. A while back I mentioned a pamphlet called 1440. I got my hands on that one. It was on PDF format. It was off Everend, which used to be Scribd. I read this pamphlet and it blew my mind. People that watch the news will come to me, and hell, even people you see on the street. It could be your family, it could be your friends, it could be your coworkers. It could just be random people, and they would sit there and go, "Hey, did you hear about the mass shooting here and there?" Or did you hear what Trump did? Oh my God, did you hear about the new laws coming into play? It's like, dude, I don't fucking care. Well, it was on the news. It's on the radio. I don't care. I really don't fucking care. And they don't understand it. And the reason for that is because they don't realize how much of the news keeps you in suspense. It keeps you in suspense and distracted to what is actually going on in the world. What is the purpose of the news outlets? It's about delivering truth, right? It's about investigating certain events, putting facts forward. But instead, right now, the news is roughly about, let's say, 90% falsity. It's made to keep you living in suspense and fear. Then you got roughly about 9 to 10% which is based off truth. But how do you know about this truth? How do you observe what is truth and what is not? That is like going into, say, for an example, a religion and going, okay, I've had my first spiritual encounter when I was 5. I went when I was 8 to a church and asked certain questions and was asked not to come back. Because that happened to me, by the way. Just saying. That portion there. But then when I started studying the occult, I started studying religions, practicing them, applying them to my life. I started seeing that what people feared. There's a series that was on YouTube. I believe you can actually get it off YouTube, and it's called The Skeleton Files. They did several occult type crimes. One was based off Pedro Mayumbi. So much was falsity on that. You go into, say, for an example, Paranormal Witness, another great TV series. I believe they made like 3-4 seasons of that. Loved it. Okay, I really did, until I got to studying the actual occult. How to summon demons, how to work with demons, how to do soul pacts with them, soul contracts, and everything. And then you realize shows like that add into the church propaganda, and again with the government pushing the whole Christian thing, the South, what we call the Bible Belt, is pushing nothing but the Bible in church. Everything else is now illegal to go into that church, when the First Amendment clearly states it's freedom of religion. Wow, no one has a right to limit or deny. Wow, that's religious land use and personalized religious acts under equal terms. Wow, okay. But it's the news and it's the TV that really put the fear into people. So by manufacturing the consent of the media platforms, oh, excuse me. It's really a shame it's to see how bad the news outlets really are these days. They don't cover anything that matters. Only what the government wants to put forth, what the Christians put forth, but what about everybody else? It's a big fuck you to the homeless. I mean, think about it. 171,485 people live on the streets nationwide. Right here in Maine, 2,483 homeless. And probably about 95 of that is, percent-wise, are people with medical conditions. Maybe 3% of that is people who used to be vets, as an ex-military. Wow, okay. And then perhaps 1% is actual crime rate. And then the other one is from foreign individuals, like Somali individuals that come over here. Portland, Augusta is maybe the capital of Maine, like I said in the last video. But it's a shit show down there. You have no idea how many shootings there are down there. It's like going down to Boston or Chicago or Tucson, Arizona. Dallas, Texas even. It's the same fucking thing, But as I tell my mother, I told my mother, she says, how do you go out and walk the streets at night? Don't you feel that you're going to get attacked, mugged or something? It's like, no. About 98% of what I see out there is ambulance. It's just an ambulance. 1% is fire trucks, and the other 1% is police. If the crime rate here in this area is so fucking bad that the media says it's like 30 some odd percent crime rate, that used to be 16% roughly about 10, 20 years ago, wow. Then where's all this fucking crime? Where's the goddamn crime? If it was 30 some odd percent, even 40% crime rate, do you think people would be leaving their fucking houses? Especially with how bad that they say it is? Drugs, shootings, stabbings, beatings, robberies, arsons. Really? I'm out there every fucking night. I walk my dogs at night. I love it. It's peaceful. But this book here came out in 1988. Originally, 1988. Very, very good book. I mean, The Path-Breaking Work by Edward S. Herman and Noam Chomsky. The truth in defense of justice. In the actual practice, they defend the economic, social, and political agendas. Wow. Very, very good book. I highly recommend that. And for those of you who are so wrapped up with socialism, even fascism, like the liberals, for an example, you got to go with Wilhelm Reich, The Mass Psychology of Fascism. I spoke on this one earlier. Okay? Right here. In the last video, I spoke of this one. I'm actually reading this book again because I really enjoyed it. Because there's another one that speaks on fascism that you can get off TikTok shop. It has nothing compared to this book. I will tell you that right now. This book came out in 1970. Second printing in 1971. Originally 1969, 1946. The earliest translation was 1946. Again in 1969, 1970, and 1971. Amazing. The oh my God, I can't fucking speak today. Ideology as a material force. The authoritarian ideology of the family and the mass psychology of fascism. The race theory, otherwise known as race mysticism. Look up race mysticism in Adolf Hitler, and I guarantee you that will blow your fucking mind. The symbolism of the swastika. That has a long history, long before neo-Nazism. The sex economic precipitations of the authoritarian family. And a lot of other things are in this book. The biologic miscalculation in the human struggle for freedom. How much truth is in that one, ladies and gentlemen? On natural, I should say, work Democrats. There's a lot of different things in this. It's like 397 pages, unlike that other one that you get off TikTok. This book here deals with the German crisis, fascism, the psychology of it. Think of not just the social, but the physical applications, the crucial role played of the social function and suppression. I mean, when you think of the media, when you think of the violation of the Constitution, for an example, people's rights being trampled over, on a wide scale of things. This book really speaks to that. I mean, if you really want to back it up, go with, like I said in the last video, On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder. He really broke it down. That one was actually maybe, I don't know, 60 to 90 pages, I think. And he actually broke it down into when you start seeing this, flee the other way. I really like that one. And now let's get into Ivan Illich's work. Ivan Illich. This guy's work was definitely ahead of its time. You know, like I said earlier in this video, schooling really was perfection for over 200 years because it was based off knowledge. It was seeking out that wisdom, the actual truth. It was men inspiring themselves to become great. Now it's just backstabbing, lies, and betrayals and falsicities. People are so fucking scared they can't even do shit because they're afraid, oh, if I do this, guess what? I'm going to have a consequence over here. Wow. Deschooling society will open your mind. Ivan Illich, Deschooling Society. This book here, you know, you look back, I don't know how old you are, but let's say, for an example, you look at what their schools are teaching your kids. You look at your nephews, your nieces, you know, when they were in school, what they taught. You look at when you were in school. What did they teach? How did they teach? You look at your parents, your grandparents, and you see each generation from your great-grandparents to your children. And the way schools sit there and say, you either come to school, you will have your kids in an institutionalized facility for education, or Child Protective Services and the police will be called on you. Well, there's a little thing called classic education. This is what allows you to teach your kids at home. Okay? So here it is. 200 years ago, let's say the 17th century, children were taught by their parents. It was the parents' responsibility to educate their children. In the 18th century, it was an obligation that you chose as a right to either go to school or to be taught at home. Okay? And then in the 19th century, you actually had to have your kids in a facility for education. It was illegal to do anything outside of that. Well, guess what? This book teaches you on a lot of different topics. Schools have failed our individual needs, supporting false and misleading notions of progress and development fostered by the beliefs that ever-increasing production, consumption, and profit are proper yardsticks for measuring the quality of human life. Wow. Our universities have become recruiting centuries for the personnel of the consumer society, certifying citizens for service. Ain't that the fucking truth? You look back in high school, you look back in school these days, you can see where you're being trained to be an employee. You can see where they don't teach money, how to invest, how to save, how to become rich, how to become an individual. No, they train you to be stupid. They train you to be a slave. And you really see that through this book. I love that book. And over the last few years, I've noticed that, my son's mother says that I have become paranoid in my old age. That I have become paranoid in my old age. I went out and I got all this stuff from how to, survival, bushcraft type stuff, to how to forge, certain things, how to do a lot of things, especially herbalism and all that stuff, because I'm an occultist. And I started doing research into my own, my own injuries and stuff like that, and then I started noticing stuff as time went on about the waiting process, about people don't have knowledge like they used to 40, 50 years ago. Everything's on a fucking technology. It's on a freaking computer these days. You know, for an example, just out of an example, I've had knee injuries to where my joints become inflamed every so often. I mean, it's gotten so bad I've needed crutches, leg immobilizers, and knee braces. Okay? You know, and a lot of times you go in and you simply ask for an anti-inflammatory because that will take care of the inflammation. But instead, they keep you waiting for 3 hours, if not more, in the ER, or in the doctor's office. You go in, you tell them, I've been icing my knees, I've been taking ibuprofen, I've been taking, Tylenol for the pain and the inflammation, and I've been icing and heating my knees, and they'll keep you there for 3 hours. You don't see a fucking doctor, you don't see a freaking nurse. You may see an orderly every so often that comes in, or just a CNA that will come in every so often and just grab stuff from a box or whatever when you're sitting on a gurney or whatever. And only for the doctor to come in and go, well, let's see, you've had an x-ray done, you've had this done, you've had that done. You got full mobility, yada yada, flexibility, yada yada yada. All right, I'm going to prescribe Tylenol, ibuprofen, and icing. Stay off your leg as much as possible. It's like, motherfucker, I've been doing that for the last week. If I wanted that freaking information, I wouldn't have fucking come in here. It's like these people are dumb, man. Literally. This book here, Medical Nemesis. The interpretation of health. The limits to medicine. God damn, you want a good fucking book to open your eyes on the medical field? I highly recommend this one. I mean, let me put it to you this way. This book was written, let me turn the page here. The earliest portion of this was 1975, 1976, 1977, 1988, 1995, 2002, 2010. Wow. Clinical, I'm not even going to pronounce that medical word, but it's IATROGENESIS. The epidemics of modern medicine, the doctor's effectiveness in illusion, the useless medical treatment. What did I just tell you of my own experience? Doctor inflicted injuries, defenseless patients. Go down into part 2, you have social, with the same word, by the way. The medicalization of life. Everything's a fucking disease. They want you drugged, they want you stupid. They want your money. So, like I said, the political transmission of that word, the ideogram, disease, social aspect, the medical monopoly, value-free cure, the medicalization of the budget, the pharmaceutical invasion, the diagnostic imperialism, the preventative stigma, the terminal ceremonies, the black magic, patient majorities, and you are put in a majority. You know, when you become a student of death, the death and dying, and you become a necromancer like I did, you know, you start learning about death, dying, and how the system works. God damn, a lot. And then you get a book like this, and it's like, that backs up everything I freaking researched and studied. The killing of pain, the invention and elimination of disease, the death against death, the politics of health. You know, you have so many different HMOs today. Most of them don't want to fucking pay a dime. They'd rather watch you die a slow, painful death and collect the benefit money. You know, so the way he puts it is only by recognizing and insisting upon the essential ingredients of personal health, he argues, can individuals recover integrity of their bodies and lives. When I started getting into Taoism, I started learning about my injuries that I've sustained over 15 years. I went to my elder, and because he's the only man that I know that has really done a body swap, if you will. He overcame death, dying, and became a true lick, an archlick. He became the most basic, feared fiend there is. And I can see why people respect him. This man knows what he's talking about. And so I went to him and I said, you're the only one that I've known that has done this. I've heard your story. I've heard how you've overcome it. How do I do the same? I've had these injuries. I am tired of going to the hospital. I am tired of dealing with doctors, physical therapists. They're so fucking stupid. They don't know shit about what they're doing. And they call themselves doctors. They have degrees, certificates. And yet, you go to a pharmacist, and the pharmacist knows everything. I would rather go to a pharmacist than to go to a doctor. In fact, I'd rather go to not just a pharmacist, but also an herbalist. I would rather go to Asian communities and go, hey, I'd like to practice and learn about alternative medicines. I will tell you this, that the Chinese people, the Japanese people, are some of the smartest individuals out there. I've got respect for these people and what they've achieved when it comes to what is possible. And when you get into things like the Shaolin monks, the Zen priesthood, monks, and all that stuff, and you get into the martial arts and the martial sciences, and you start learning about the brain, you start learning about the body, and then you look at the alternative medicines and you get into your injuries and you start going, okay, so this injury, these are the muscles and the joints that were affected. This is the radios, the ground zero of where that injury took place. This is what I can do to overcome it. This is the type of herbs that get blood flow going. These are the type of foods that are going to replenish the joints and the nerves. These are the things that's going to clean out your blood. These are the things that's going to allow muscles to grow. These are the type of things that are going to help the bones. So who the fuck needs doctors? Who Who the hell needs doctors? So when you get into this book, Medical Nemesis by Ivan Illich, it's going to blow your mind. There's a couple other books that I would recommend if you go that route as well. The Eye of the Tiger, something. What is it? The Mouth of the Tiger, I believe it's called. It was a book on Asian medicines, and that book was recommended to me by an elder of mine, and that I'm no longer associated with. I still call him a friend and a brother, but he betrayed the Breton, the Brotherhood, the Cabal, if you will, and was basically dubbed an apostate. So, but I don't really talk to him much these days either. So I don't know what's going on in his world, But the guy was always there for me, and he always had great sources of information. But he did bring that stuff on himself. But it is what it is, So, but anyways, the last book is The Art of War. Now, this book is basically three authors in one. I bought this book because it had some of my favorite authors: Sun Zhu, The Art of War, and then on top of that, it had The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. Loved that man's work. Loved his perspectives of what we call a zeta male, if you will, or a sigma, whatever you want to call it, alpha, sigma, zeta, whatever. His perception was dead on. On War by General Karl von Clausewitz and Frederick the Great, in the instructions to his generals by Frederick the Great. So you have 4 individuals in this one book. Now, The Art of War is a book based off strategy. It's based off warfare. But look at life as a war. It is a battleground. And the only thing you got to choose is where you're going to fight your battles. Do you want to fight it in the mind? Do you want to fight it in the body? Do you want to fight it in the world? And like I said, these books are just some of the 43 books that I would recommend. Namely because of the fact that they're going to open your eyes. They're going to educate you on certain factors to where the world is a fucking lie. It is a matrix. And the only thing that this world, I apologize, my mustache is making my nose itch, plus I get dog hair on me. Because I am babysitting the dogs tonight. These books are really going to educate you in a lot of different areas. And you will benefit from them. And I am not joking about that. As a black magician, a necromancer, as a practicing warlock, when I look at a clientele, I can do a cartomancy read and see everything going on. I can bring things up that weren't even discussed. Perspectives of what that client is going through. Because the client could be talking to a third party who gets in touch with a business associate of mine, and then that business associate comes to me, and I pull out my cards and I just lay them out, and it's like I see the whole picture. I can close my eyes and see 3D what that person is going through or what they're trying to accomplish. I had a brother that I don't associate with anymore. He's from Lafayette, Louisiana, and I truly call this guy a brother. He was always there for me, and I was always there for him, but over the last couple of years, we kind of just grew apart, and he went his own way. I know he fell on hard times and everything, but last time I heard, he was doing pretty good. I know he's got a couple of different YouTube, account, not YouTube, but Facebook accounts. But he once came to me on a image that he had been seeing, and I put it into 3D, and it blew his mind. I've always had that gift, but reading these books over the last couple of years, the last year and a half to 2 years, kind of blew my mind. Each one I had to meditate on, I had to reflect upon, I had to figure out how to incorporate it into my life, and now I have benefited dearly from these books, and I know you will as well. So don't be afraid to go out and get them. That's why down in the description box, I actually wrote them in there so that you can go under there and you can get them yourself. So, Shell Jimenez, welcome to the channel. Chew Pro Gamer, welcome to the channel. Light for G4W, welcome to the channel. Hello, Elena, and yes, I do remember you. So that's why I always try to tell you guys, whatever you preach, back it up with numerous sources. And whatever you preach, always make yourself available to the public, because you are responsible for the things that you do and say. So, and keep in mind that a lot of the books that I have recommended in this video have actually been banned from a lot of countries. And the reason for that is because they inspire individualism. They inspire you to be educated and enlightened. So, even like I said in the last video, there was I saw this on YouTube. Here on YouTube is apparently there was a book that came out that said, if you are against fascism, then you are a terrorist. I don't know how true that is, but if it is, if this new book that came out from the government says that you're a terrorist because you stand against fascism, then guess what? It is what it is. I'd rather be enlightened. I'd rather be educated. And there's the Duke Meister. Here's my boy. This is the boss dog. Yeah. Say hello, Dukes. Say hello. Sleepy boy. Yes, I know. I'll move the books in just a minute. I'll move the books in just a minute, buddy. I promise. You don't have to trample over them. All right, I'll do it, buddy. Jeez. So pushy. You're pushy tonight. You know that, right? Here you go. He's so pushy. So, anyways. The other two are on the floor sleeping, but anyways, they're good kids. But yeah, so like I said, I would rather be enlightened, I'd rather be educated, and my understanding your rights and the laws of the land are going to help you more than going with society's norms and things that are false. So if you truly want to seek apotheosis, begin with self-mastery. You're the only one that can forge the discipline, the commitment, and the self-motivation to evolve as an individual. You're the only one who can ascend or descend the tree of life or the tree of Da'ath, if you're into Hermetic traditions, and really evolve into godhood. You're the only one that can transform your own life. Plain and simple. But you got to eliminate, ego. You got to eliminate the pride, and you got to learn to humble yourself. But I do agree with Grim Hustle that 24 to 48 hours, put down your technology and just isolate yourself, Go out and commune with nature and just get to know people in person and not, become a keyboard warrior. You know, too many lies, too many deceptions are online, and too many fascists and man haters, womanizers, and the dogmas of reality are out there and online. So, if you really want to refresh yourself and you really want to better yourself, then get the fuck offline. Just get offline. Shut off your technology. Shut off your phone. Spend 10 minutes in reading daily. Take an hour. Spend an hour with your family. Spend say 3 hours reading or studying. How about meditation? How about working out, lifting weights? And then look at everything else that you don't need in your life. How can you get rid of the dead weight and really rise to the occasion and better yourself? I would rather have one good friend that wants to build me up, even if I'm not in the same room, than 1,000 backstabbers that's only going to talk to me and agree with me in person and then backstab me all over social media. See, those people I don't fucking need, and I don't want them in my life. You betray me once, I'll let it slide. You betray me twice, I'm not going to forget, but I'm not going to forgive you. You betray me 3 times, your ass is out the fucking door, and I won't accept you back. So, educate yourself, rise to the occasion, and live your life by 2 creeds. Number 1, whatever you preach, back it up with numerous sources. Get your ass in there. Fighting over a ball. There. Oh, sorry. So yeah, that's why the harnesses are on. I can just pick one up and bring her into the kennel. And it's always the same too. Say hello, Opal. And then Ember. Hi, buddy. Take your ball. You take your bone. You stay over there. You go back into your kennel. Hoy. Welcome to my world. If it's not family or friends, it's the canines. But either way, you strategize. You understand where each one's coming from. And just like people, you learn to deal with them. But unfortunately, through the world, everything's going online. And that's where you are being manipulated. And that is where you are being torn down into a machine. You're also being replaced by AI. You're being replaced by vehicles that drive themselves, and technology is taking over. So where does a person actually fit into this? Where does your education and your common sense fit into all this? Think about that. And how do you counteract all this stuff? I gave some sources in the last video before I had to go get my son from school. And I've given you I've given you 8 more sources here, plus 2 extras. So a total of 10 books total in this video. Like I said, Jim Marrs' The Rise of the Fourth Reich, and Timothy Snyder's On Tyranny. And then if you want to go to 11, look up Fascism by Ariana Huffington. Get into that one. And then you go into the mass psychology of fascism, and I guarantee you, you'll learn more from the older book than you will of the new. Go with the older stuff every fucking time. Do the work, put the time in, educate yourself, achieve your apotheosis, and seek that out. Seek out your apotheosis. True apotheosis, not what anybody else thinks it is. but what you is, what it truly is. And I guarantee it, in the long run, you are going to benefit dearly. All right? I want to thank everybody for jumping on here with me. I appreciate it. For those of you who are going to jump on after this fact, if you like what I do and you like what I put forth education-wise, feel free to hit that notification button. Feel free to hit that notification button. You know, the subscribe button and the notification button. Hit them. Subscribe to this channel. And I guarantee it, you won't be disappointed. Because I am upfront and honest with everything. If I don't know it, I'm going to tell you that. Give me a little bit of time and I will find that information out and I will give it to you. I will lead you down the right roads, and it's just a matter of you doing the work. That's it. Plain and simple. Okay? But always make yourself available to the public, and always back up what you fucking preach. Alright? Have a good night. Have a good day wherever you are in the world. And until next time, I am out.